continue right away with the first topic. This is about a topic and everyone needs to practice how you pronounce it, but as far as I know, this is about botanical species containing hydroxyanthracene derivatives. And we know that there is an objection already to it. We know that Mr. Sergio Berlato has indicated to object to this proposal by the Commission. We have a 3-month scrutiny period, as always, which will conclude by the 1st of March. So what we are going to do, because many other political groups also asked for more information before taking a decision, so this session is to provide that information. So first of all, we will give the floor to the Commission to propose the rationale and the reasoning of this proposal. Then I will give Mr. Sergio Berlato the floor, and he can explain why he is objecting and also add questions to that. And then I will open up the floor for everyone who would like to speak. I do ask everyone to raise the hand. I know we've heard some people from the different political groups who have been active on it, but just for completeness, please raise your hands according to a catch-the-eye procedure so that I can, after Mr. Sergio Berlato, give everyone the floor to raise questions to the Commission. And then, of course, we conclude with the Commission again to give answers to everyone. And that will then conclude this exchange of views. Every group can consider and digest the different answers and come to a position. We will then vote later on in January, the end of January, we will vote on the objection, and every group can decide on which side they will put their vote. And if it's going to be adopted, then it will move to the plenary in February. So that's a bit the procedure on this one. It's slightly different than we do usually, but we have chosen to do so because there were a lot of questions around this, and we thought it would be good to first have a more informative session and then go into the vote in 2 weeks' time. So that explains it. So therefore, first I would like to give the floor to the Commission, and I've seen in the list that we have Mrs. Sabine Juliga, and she's Director for the Food and Feed Safety Unit of DG Sante, and she will introduce the proposal and explain the rationale of it, and then I will open up the floor to all the colleagues who would like to make a statement or preferably ask questions, because that's the level that probably works the best at this moment. But first, the floor to the Commission. Sabine Juliga, you have the floor, and you can help us in pronouncing hydroxyanthracene derivatives.
Yes, indeed, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to explain the draft measure. And I would really like to start confirming that the draft measure is based on the scientific advice we have received from the European Food Safety Authority. We had extensive consultation with member states on this draft measure and indeed with all interested parties. So what we know since beginning of 2018, when we received an EFSA opinion on certain hydroxyanthracene derivatives, I will call them HADs in future, that certain of them are genotoxic. We know this without any scientific doubt that certain of these HADs are genotoxic, and we know this as well for aloe extracts which contain HAD derivatives. For other extracts that contain HADs, there is a certain concern, a certain safety concern. We do not have the same scientific certainty to say right away that they are genotoxic. But these two groups are the two groups we actually propose to regulate. Now, the framework that we are in is a regulation that allows us either to prohibit substances. Well, actually, it requests us to prohibit substances that have a negative, harmful effect on health. This framework also allows us to set certain conditions, and as a third option, it allows us to place certain substances under scrutiny. So what, after discussion, we have decided is to place a number of substances for which there is no scientific doubt that they are genotoxic on the part of the provision that prohibits them, because there is no justification that any food supplement knowingly contains genotoxic substances. For those where there is a certain scientific uncertainty, we have decided to propose to place them under scrutiny, which means that there is a certain time frame where the applicants or the interested parties can submit dossiers and can demonstrate whether these substances are safe. So we have really gone in depth also with the interested parties here to find a balanced approach, but one where we can be really certain that the approach is safe for consumers. All in all, as I said, this is a balanced proposal. It is protective for the consumers, and we have designed it in the environment in such a way that there is least negative effect on industry. And I will quickly explain how that has been done, because we have been made aware that there is a possibility to remove these harmful HADs during the production process. So we have engaged with the reference laboratories, with the laboratories to work on an analytical method. We have engaged with the member states to set up limits of quantification, so that now industry can engage in these methods to remove HADs in certainty, in legal certainty, and by creating a level playing field across all EU member states. So we think with this, to the extent possible, we have also addressed industry concerns that they can use this technical solution to render the food preparations free of these harmful substances. With this, I think I would like to await the questions that may be arising from now on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as said, I will first give the floor to Sergio Berlato, who has indicated to object to this proposal of the Commission, but I'm sure he will also have questions to the Commission. And as said, after that, I open up the floor for Catch the Eye. Everyone who would like to ask a question, please raise your hand so that we can take as many questions as possible that Sabine Giuligo will then reply to afterwards. But first, Sergio Berlato from ECR gets the floor for the objection that is coming up.
Grazie, signor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, colleagues. I'd like to thank everyone who's present. Now, with this draft Commission regulation that amends Annex 3 to Regulation 1925-2006 of the European Parliament, sound is gone, sorry.
Derivati siano sicuramente genotossici.
They are certainly genotoxic and carcinogenic. The proposal on the EFSA opinion was the beginning of 2018, which, however, has scientific uncertainty as far as the presumed safety, according to EFSA. If you examine the scientific data available at the time, the group of scientific experts reached the conclusion that hydroxyanthracene derivatives should be considered cancerogenic and genotoxic unless there were specific data against, stating that there was a problem was danger for the derivatives of hydroxyanthracene derivatives, even though the uncertainty remains, within inverted commas. Now, this has been discussed at length by toxicologists and also criticized in public online consultation, which the Commission started on the 4th of March 2020, which stressed various weak points. three in particular. First of all, there's a definite uncertainty, as you find in the opinion, unless there are any specific data against, and the uncertainty remains. Secondly, many studies were carried out on the individual HAD purified substances and not the whole vegetable matter, and in vivo studies with oral administration, enormous doses for long periods, which would bring apoplastic damage without any genotoxic effects. Now, many studies were carried out that aloe hemidin is a process of aloe ferrex, which is tested in the vegetable matter, show no genotoxicity in vivo at enormous dosages, which go against the results of the EFSA opinion. Now, even though the Commission was made aware of these studies, still did not have the data assessed by EFSA, but appears to be committed to proceed independently with this ban through this draft regulation. It's important to point out that if this ban were to be approved, there would no longer be any possibility of submitting it and assessing further scientific data, which is unacceptable, especially from a scientific point of view. If, however, measures were to be undertaken at this moment, aloe products and all substances in Part A of the Commission's proposal should be moved to Part C in order to allow the submission and the assessment by EFSA of new scientific data before they find a more consistent basis on the basis of Regulation 1925/2006 CEC. And this would allow us to have something more scientifically supported. We believe that the Commission's proposal is based on certainties that are not really certainties at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking at now, I open up. So as said, Mr. Sergio Bellato has indicated he will object to it, and that was also very clear from his statement, but the Commission will react to that later on. Now I open up the floor for all the colleagues, but please raise your hand if you have a question. If you do not raise your hand, I assume you do not have questions to the Commission, and I will try to give everyone the floor. The first one I see raised her hand is Alessandra Moretti from S&D. You have the floor.
Grazie Presidente.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, colleagues. And I would like to welcome you all and hope that we can see ourselves and meet again soon. Now, as to this point raised too by our colleague Bellato, I'd like to point out some elements that I believe to be crucial. The amendments proposed run the risk of having a very severe impact on certain sectors of the strategic food chain, penalizing plants, herbs, food supplements, and a whole wide series of products. I could accept these comments if the justification were the objective to protect human health, but that is not the case, because EFSA, it said, has decreed the risk as uncertain, whilst according to recent toxicological tests, the risk to health appears to be completely non-existent. In another case, we have no scientific basis that is certain. So in the lack of a correct and consistent scientific examination of results, I suggest we reassess the EFSA opinion and reopen the whole process for the evaluation of the substances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been informed that Jessica Polfjard also would like to take the floor. So, Jessica Polfjard, you have the floor, although you did not raise your hand, but of course everyone can take the floor, but please raise your hand. It's just a button. Jessica Polfjard, you can speak now.
Ms. Polfjard, press the speak button, please.
Thank you for giving me the floor and not having to ask for it. It feels good to have this connection with the chairman. And Happy New Year to all of you. And this is a pronunciation that I will not either try to do. And we haven't seen the full draft yet. And I think that when it comes, it will be easier for us to fully review the text. But I would like to ask the Commission, there has been discussion and some uncertainties regarding the scientific. There has been some criticism regarding scientific uncertainties and even so with data gaps. And maybe you could inform us what is the updates and the information that I would like to give to the ENV committee regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know from Renew, André Knotek, he's in the room and also asked for the floor. So, Mr. Knotek, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, indeed, it is a very interesting topic, and I am really great that we can raise questions to better orient in this problematic. So I will already try to react on what has been said. I can follow the arguments of the Commission leading to prohibition. However, let's say there could be possible concerns whether this extent and impact of those prohibitions simply if they correspond to the EFSA conclusions, because let's say that the studies were not wide, they were quite simple, and this topic more and more we are involved deeper and deeper seems to be a little complex. I really welcome that Commission tried to consider also potential employment and business impact. I'm not sure whether proposed variants are too much optimistic. Therefore, I would like to ask whether the Commission disposes with any figures to quantify possible impact on employment and also economy. Then I would like to ask if Commission disposes and has any reports of adverse health effects from food containing HAD on a wider population. This could also be very helpful. And allow me please last question, and it is a question, not a suggestion, really a question. Wouldn't it be beneficial, upon what all has been said, that all substances would be put under EU scrutiny, and further testing would be required, more complex testing, also with respect of the existence of parallel reports done by Italian and German authority, which partially got into contradiction with EFSA findings. So whether it wouldn't be better to really make wide, complex testing to really know where we stay for such important decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of ID, I see that Ivan David has raised his hand. So you have the floor next.
As regards the ban of the production and sale of crops containing hydroxyanthracene derivates, in particular rhubarb and aloe vera, I consider this to be completely inadequate, as these substances have not been shown to have toxic effects in normal doses and applications. Everything is toxic depending on the dose, including water, experiments on other animal species turned out to be negative. In vitro experiments are problematic methodically. I have been testing drugs for 20 years. The issue of toxicity was also part of the dossier. If a ban were to occur, it would be further negative information about the European Commission in the eyes of the public. I guess this is not the goal. I assure you, gardeners will continue to grow the rhubarb. I call for this to be considered and the ban to be lifted.
Thank you very much. And now on behalf of the Greens, I have Piernicola Pedicini. Please, Piernicola, please press the speak button.
Ok, thank you Mr. President, I will switch in Italian. Secondo EFSA,
Well, according to EFSA, the aloe leaf has shown this genicity in rats, and so it's right to investigate for humans. But we also wonder why not all the studies and the scientific assessments have reached different conclusions from EFSA were not also taken into consideration before we ban the substance. You have the feeling that it's aimed at going against the industry that produces food supplements based on plant and natural substances. And this will go against the small producer because the big producers will be able to extract the substances they want. Now, we've seen that some substances are carcinogenic when they are in food supplements, and yet they are not toxic when they are in alcoholic beverages or in drugs. Now, if the Commission continues like that, the products we've been substances from plants that we've used for millennia will disappear from the market to be replaced by synthetic products or artificial products, drugs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the left, I have Anja Hazekamp, who raised her hand. Anja, you have the floor.
Thank you, Bas. Well, for many years, there are grave concerns about the health impacts of hydroxyanthracene derivatives. And I welcome the initiative of the Commission to address these concerns, as we need to get rid of all genotoxic and carcinogenic substances in our food and our environment. We will therefore not support the objection to the ban of these genotoxic and carcinogenic substances. I would like to thank Ms. Jülicher for her explanation, but I still have a lot of questions. I would like to hear from the Commission why it has taken so long to reach this decision, especially since HADs are widely used in foods. It seems to have taken far too many years to propose this ban, during which consumers have been exposed to this harmful substance. Also, could the Commission confirm that also the other substances which are now added to the scrutiny list of Annex C are potentially quite harmful? What does the Commission expect regarding these substances? And am I right to assume that they will most probably need to be added to the ban list of Annex A after 4 years? What kind of research and monitoring will take place over the coming years to be able to reach a final decision in time? What additional risks for human health are we taking by allowing their presence in the food chain and for an additional 4 years. You know that the precautionary principle should prevail over business interests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we have still 2 speakers who would like to ask questions to the Commission. So with that, I also close the speaking list. From S&D, I have still my colleague Simona Bonafè. You have the floor.
Sì, grazie Presidente, ma io intanto...
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'll start from a more general comment, which has to do with the scientific evaluation of natural substances and botanicals, which is extremely complicated, and it's also been discussed at length in this committee over the years. As a contact person for EFSA, I had asked the Commissioner to have the full involvement of Parliament. However, I unfortunately have to see how this did not happen, and various measures which have to do with the evaluation of other natural substances were placed in the minutes of the comitology agenda, leaving Parliament outside from this discussion. For this reason, I would like to ask you, President Outman, that apart from today's objection, and then I'll go into the details of this, and I have some questions for the Commission, but I do believe that it's necessary to look further in depth the question of future assessment of natural substances and the next meetings of our committee. Now, if I move on to the regulation on aloe derivatives, HDA, I'd like to take a step backwards. As the Commission mentioned, they base themselves on the EFSA assessment. Now, EFSA had found the presence until disproven, and I'd stress this, until disproven, but there was a toxicity in aloe derivatives, even though it was said earlier that there was this scientific uncertainty as to the risk for the safety of human health. Now, looking at this uncertainty, it was mentioned, but I'd like to repeat this. Recently, international studies were prepared, apart from European ones, on aloe extracts and on the pure molecule of aloe emidin, which definitely go against the risks of genotoxicity, which were at the basis of the EFSA evaluation and therefore the proposal which the Commission had prepared. Now, I can't deny how all these new studies that I have been able to study further, just as other colleagues, have shown that there are certain critical points in the EFSA evaluation. Also, given the specificity of the subject we are discussing, so the evaluation of natural substances. So, personally, I don't want to call into question the need of applying this precautionary principle. I will never do that, nor do I want to replace EFSA's expertise in scientific evaluation. But I must say, quite frankly, in order to allow us as MEPs to take a fully informed political decision, the Commission should explain whether and how they have taken on board these new studies, and whether it might not be necessary to revise the EFSA opinion on the basis of new scientific data which is available today, which all the colleagues have pointed out very clearly. So that was one of the reasons why, as an EFSA contact person, I'd asked President Comfort and the coordinators the possibility of extending the deadline for an objection and then go and study further in depth the question in the committee. Because as an MEP, I would really want to make an informed, up-to-date decision on the basis of present scientific proof. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, I have Jutta Paulus, who raised her hand.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the floor, and thank you very much to the Commission for enabling this exchange. My question goes a bit in the same direction as Anja Hasekam's. I'm a pharmacist by training, and during my time at university, which is quite some years back, I started my studies in 1986. There were already discussions on the genotoxicity of aloe, rheum, senna, all those plants that contain hydroxyanthracene derivatives. So my question would also be, why does it take so long to protect consumers from these substances and from these plant extracts? We were back then discussing it from a pharmaceutical view, saying, well, there are sufficient other possibilities when it comes to laxatives, but when it comes to food and food supplements, this is also true. And my second question would be, what is the strategic assessment of this part of the food sector, as some colleagues have pointed out, that this should be seen as a strategic by a strategic angle, and I was not aware that this sector is of strategic importance to the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everyone has had the opportunity to make their statements and raise the questions. Maybe to Simona Bonafè, of course we checked on whether we can extend it, but this is an RPS, so it's pre-Lisbon Treaty file, and there is not the possibility to extend. We can do that in the new delegated acts that is Lisbonized, but that's not the case here. So we need to react as a parliament before the 1st of March, and unfortunately that cannot be extended. So we need to take our position before that. But in order to allow for more time for exchange of views, we did the approach as we did now, meaning that we have an exchange of view with the Commission, everyone could ask the questions, then everyone can look at the matter once more and decide on how to vote. And as said, the vote will then be the end of January in order to, if it passes, can go to the plenary for February. And then we are all in time. So we've had quite some questions, so I would like to give the floor back now to Ms. Sabine Julica to try to answer as much as possible, because that will help all the groups to come to an informed position. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. And thanks for the question and the intense discussion. I'm personally very happy that we have this exchange, and maybe I start with the questions that have been put. Why has it taken so long for the Commission to make this proposal? Indeed, we have the EFSA opinion since beginning of 2018. And why it has taken so long is that we have really taken this super seriously. We have interacted, both us and the EFSA, with many parties in the process. Some of the questions that we heard today, the validity of certain studies, the validity of the EFSA assessment and their conclusion, that was questioned, that was discussed with EFSA and those who brought forward these arguments. We took a lot of time to interact with industry parties to also understand, their concerns. And what we really wanted to propose is a solid proposal that protects consumers and is balanced in that sense that we place under scrutiny those substances that deserve to be further studied. So I think we are still in an appropriate time frame here. In particular, if we find an agreement also now under the scrutiny period, that this is the appropriate approach that we are taking. But part of the time that has been used is to go into depth into all the arguments and partially those that we have heard today. So I'm very confident with the proposal as such. What is very clear, and I would like to emphasize that, yes, the objective is to protect human health. We have no other objective. We don't want to go against industry. I wouldn't know why we would be doing that. We don't have a particular, adversity against small and medium-sized enterprises. Just the opposite. I mean, once we learn that there are technical possibilities to deal with these harmful substances, we felt we are also obliged to study this carefully to enable processes that will render food and food supplements safe from these substances. Now, concerning the level of uncertainty that was brought forward here in the discussion today, I really want to be very, very clear. In the opinion of 2018, EFSA concluded that certain HADs, that would be aloe amodine, that would be emodine, that would be dandrone, as well as aloe extract containing HADs, are genotoxic and they can cause cancer in the intestine. And this is based on the data obtained from in vitro and in vivo clinical studies. So going back to the EFSA opinion, there is no doubt whatsoever on the genotoxicity of these substances. And for that reason, and for reason of protecting public health, these are the substances we propose to place into Part A, which is to prohibit them in food. EFSA further considered that there are safety concerns for certain extracts, such as rheum or cassia or rhamnus extracts, and that certain scientific uncertainty persists. These are the ones that we place under scrutiny, which means that there is a certain limited time period of 18 months for interested parties to demonstrate whether these are safe or not. EFSA has a certain, again, limited time period to make a conclusion hereon, and I can already commit at this moment here, should there be any concerns with these substances, the Commission will act swiftly. So I think we have to be very clear on a certain range of substances. There are no scientific uncertainties as regards their genotoxicity, and we are really called in the interest of consumer protection to move on from this point. I think these were really the main aspects of questions. I'm just checking my notes. There was a question on the impact and the impact on employment and whether we have really here a strategic sector of strategic importance. On the strategic importance, I mean, that would not be my definition of strategic importance when we compare to medicines or vaccines that we are discussing at the moment. However, no, we have not made a true impact assessment in terms of effect on employment, but as I explained to you, we have provided a frame that those companies that would want to continue to work with these substances and use the technical methodology that is there to render these botanicals free of critical substances, that these companies can continue operating. And if I may, I mean, the Commission is obviously very, very much prepared to continue exchanging with interested parties in the next couple of weeks. Should there be any questions, we are there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all these answers, and that concludes this discussion we had. As said, in 2 weeks' time we will vote on the objection, and I wish all the political groups, well, they need to decide on how to position themselves. This